Huh?
And summary the most of you said it wasn't the unless
To the front, to the front. What am I going to do with this?
why not?
Oh,
Isn't it back?
I'll try to. You know, don't tell me that, because I live there. It's my favourite place to eat. Yeah.
Send me the name. Like, I'll be honest.
Name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Lord, amen. So, Mark chapter 13. We got up to last week we got up to verse 21. And we were talking about last week was the abomination of desolation, about the beginning of the end of times and his description of what the end of times will look like. And then we brought that to that meaning for us, about us losing everything and dying daily, right? So that we are prepared for the end of time. Right? And verses like, and let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes, about the value of things that will mean nothing at the end of time. In that same manner, we as Christians, we live in that same manner. All those things that do not have meaning for us at our death. Right? As they say, a coffin has no pockets. We cannot take in anything with us. At the end of the times, it's all about us being watchful and being ready to receive our Christ and us going back to where we belong, a restoration of the Christ within. So we'll start with verse 21. Let's go. Then, if anyone says to you, look here, it is the Christ, or look here is there, do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will rise and show signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. But take heed, see, I've told you all the things beforehand. But those days, after the tribulations, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars of heaven will fall, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. They will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory, and then he will send his angels and gather together his elect from the four winds, from the farthest part of the earth to the farthest part of heaven. I wanted to go and understand about this whole idea of the Antichrist and really start to pull things apart. For the same way, we, as the body of Christ, have different functions and different things that we must actually follow, all right? So whether you're the hand of Christ or the feet of Christ or the eyes of Christ, etc., The same way Satan works in that manner. Okay? So the Antichrist, we always focus on it as the one person coming to distract us from God and take us away from God, and him doing wonders, etc., etc., etc. Right? But in that same way, Satan works. He convinces us, surely, slowly, with little things. Right? For example, in our spiritual life with God, as us getting to know God, we sometimes minimize the small things that get us to know God. Yeah? So it would be our acts of kindness, or our prayer life, or showing love when it's unnecessary. Small things, building blocks that bring us to Christ. Right? Satan does the exact same thing. He sells us sin, right, in small increments. And we dismiss it. This is not too bad. There's nothing wrong with this. Right? And the more we buy into these small things, the more we're building up the sin and Satan within us as well. It's vice versa. The small things that we build for Christ, right, is the same way we build Satan within us. So, because for us as Christians, we like to do the big things. Yeah? Correct? Come to liturgy, do our services, make our appearances and whatnot. And with sin, we diminish the big things. Oh, I'm not going to kill anyone. I'm not going to steal or do things that are obvious. Right? But what we have to understand, right, the Antichrist gets bigger with the small building blocks being built within us. That white lie, or that little anger that we don't take out of us, or that pride that gets bigger within us. These are the things that we actually have to be watchful for. Right? Because Antichrist means against God. Means against our nature. Right? In Romans, he speaks to us about the natural law of man. Which then he preceded with the law of Moses, then with the law of Christ, who said there was a progression. The same thing with sin. If we let the small things dwell within us, right? This Antichrist that we are being so watchful for is actually growing within us. We truly have to start ripping it away. The small things matter. The small things build big habits. Right? Like praying every morning or praying before you go to sleep reminds you of your purpose as a Christian. When I wake up, I give thanks to God, and when I go to bed, I am watchful over my day. We build through the small things. Right? We achieve good habits through the small things. Don't be big focused. The kingdom of heaven is taken by consistency, persistence, not just doing big Christian things. So when we hear conversation about the Antichrist, right, we always think of this magical person who's Christ-like, yeah, who does miracles and and convinces the world of other things. Yeah? Remember, when it comes to Satan, he is too smart to come in a Harry Potter cloak and do magic tricks. Yeah? But rather, he will come defeat you through breaking the wall down bit by bit and instilling love for the world within your heart. Yeah? Instilling the love of the world in your heart. Whether it's money, whether it's possessions, whether it's love of others more than God. And St. Mark then combats this with what? The destruction of the world. Right? The destruction of the world through what? What does he say? Read again. Right? But in those days after that tribulation, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars of heaven will fall and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. The things that we look at will start to what? Fall apart. And as many church fathers that truly believe that this will physically happen. That the world as we know it will start to fall apart. Right? And Christ will come and it will be known. Very obvious signs. But in that same manner, there's a lot of church fathers that talk about when the destruction of the sun and the stars falling apart. Right? It's the reformation of how we see the world. And this is actually something that is very, very interesting. Because the fabric of society today is already falling apart. The fabric of how the people see the world is falling apart. The desensitization of things that should make us upset. Yeah? And that for me is the stars falling. Something that is meant to be so pure and so nice and give us hope is actually being thrown away. There are so much things happening in the world today that for those who truly believe in God and have that faith in God, it is like the sun falling. It's like the sky disappearing, the sun losing its light. And this is where we have to be careful. The fabric of our church is what? Is being present with Christ. Being in a place where we can continually grow with Him. Not worrying about our clothes, not worrying about what we wear, etc., as he mentioned earlier in the chapter. But in preparation for the world falling, right? And the elect being tricked by those little things that they forget about in their faith with God, and minimizing sin and not worrying about it, the world will actually destroy itself. And this apparition of the Son of Man on a cloud is littered in what? In the Old Testament. Prophecy after prophecy after prophecy. And Christ reiterating this is saying that yes, this is true. Right? This is true. Because he said earlier, what did he say earlier? About what? Knowing these things before it comes. Knowing these things before it comes. He's preparing us to say, you know these signs. You know when the Son of Man will come. Be prepared. Don't take signs for granted. Don't take the destruction of the world as nothing. But be ready and be watchful. And this whole idea of being watchful, right? We'll go through it for the rest of the chapter. And the idea of being watchful is littered in the words of Christ. He compares it to those who are asleep. The 5 wise virgins and the 5 foolish ones. 5 were watchful, and 5 were asleep. Yeah? When the disciples, when Christ was praying in Gethsemane, what were the disciples doing? Sleeping, and Christ was crying. He was being watchful. And when he waked them up, what did he say? Watch. Be alert. And the whole idea of being watchful is like the one who guards his heart. Yeah? He is watchful about the things entering and leaving his heart. It's like a city, and they have the guards at every corner, being watchful about who's coming in and who's leaving. This idea about being watchful is the warning that Christ tells us. Be careful. Watch. Stay vigilant. Don't fall asleep. Revelations 3 talks about the church that was alive, but he was dead. Who were meant to be awake and watchful, but were asleep. The end of the world is about being watchful. In the Nagbeya, in the midnight prayers, what do we call them? We call them the watchers. First watch, second watch, third watch. The prayers of being alert and awakened to God. So in remembrance of this, remembrance of the end of the world is about the Christian being watchful and seeing the signs and understanding the signs, but more importantly being ready to see Christ come. So we'll go from verse 27. And then he will send his angels and gather together his elect from the 4 winds, from the furthest part of the earth to the farthest part of heaven. The 4 winds, so Athanasius talks about this as in Greek, which is a north, south, east, west. It's spelt A-D-A-M, right? I can't say the words because I'm going to mix it up. But it's spelled A-D-A-M, with that spelling Adam. Yeah? Adam representing humanity. Right? And this humanity that is represented is saying that the 4 winds represent the whole world coming together, coming to meet Christ. Because it says from where? From the furthest part of the earth to the furthest part of heaven. Everyone will come to meet Christ. No one will be able to hide. And this understanding that of hiding, right, gets brought up in the next part about being watchful. And one of the most famous trees in the Bible, they're what? The fig tree. That you will not be able to hide. That even Adam, yeah, who after he ate from the tree of knowledge, what did he do? What did him and Eve do? Cover themselves with fig leaves. Yeah? That even if you try to cover and hide from God, you will not be able to. At the end, everything will be in front of him for you to see. For God to judge. That the world will fall apart, and everything that you will try to hide yourself with, every excuse, every thought, there will be nothing that will be able to hide you from God, from Christ when He comes back. Because the sun will no longer be of use. The water will have no longer use. The stars will fall. And everything that you think of life will no longer matter. For even the heavens will declare the glory of God. David the psalmist. Everything that is therein belongs to God. And you will know that as the earth belongs to God, so do we. For where Adam came from the earth, so we will return to the earth and then return to God who is waiting for us. Let's go into the fig tree. Now learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see these things happening, know that it is near at the doors. Surely I say to you, this generation will no means pass away till all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. And in this moving forward, right? The whole idea of summer being near. That summer being near. The fig tree being ripened to be ready to release fruit. Right? So there are things that are obvious in a fig tree when it's summer, when it's season to release fruit, that will happen. Leaves, the branches being tender, seeing physical fruit come down, being ready to eat. These are the obvious signs that it's in its season. So does the end of the world. But let's not get confused as well. Let's not get confused with things being too obvious. Right? There's a lot of things about this we do not understand. Like even the church fathers were split about how the end of the world will come and what it will look like. Yeah? But in that same manner, to avoid this altogether, he says, prepare every day like it is your last. The remembrance of death daily. The remembrance of the world, your world ending daily. This will keep you on the straight and narrow. That tomorrow is not guaranteed. For the end of the world for a Christian is the end of his life. That's when your end will come. Right? In the Agbeya we say, if this world was everlasting and this world eternal, or my soul would have a valid excuse. Right? That we know that my time on earth is limited. We know my time on earth is not something that will be forever. So, for a Christian, does it really matter when the end of the world happens? No. It's like that story Father Joshua talks about. How when this man was talking to God, and he prayed to God for one thing, to know the time of what? His death. So God revealed to this man the time of his death. And he had 20 years to live. So the man lived his life and enjoyed it. 10 years goes past. He sits down with himself, he goes, I've got another 10 years. You know? Then he keeps enjoying his life, doing whatever he likes. Another 5 years goes past. He goes, I've got another 5 years, what do I need to worry about? He continues to live his life, right? Another 4 years go past, he's got a year to live. And right now, what? His fig tree is what? Starting to ripen. His leaves are starting to get bigger. His what? His branches are starting to get soft, and fruit is starting to produce. Six months goes past, he goes, I've still got 6 months to live. What am I worried? I know when I'm going to die. 6 months becomes 3 months becomes a month becomes 2, 3 weeks, then he's into his last week. Then he starts to think, instead of me coming to repent, I've got 7 days and I need to enjoy the rest of my life. Seven becomes 6, 6 becomes 5, and 5 becomes 4. And it comes the last 2 days of his life, and he's still in his heart saying, oh, I've got 2 days to live. I know that I'm going to die. I know when. Eventually he got caught up in trying to live his life that he forgot to give his life to God and repent and lost his eternity. The knowledge of the end of the world does not give us the ability to live what? The way we want, then at the end just repent. Be watchful. Give your life to God now. Don't place bets on when the end of the world is going to happen. Do not place bets on when you think your life is going to end. For that truly is foolishness. That is truly foolishness. You see the signs every single day. We see death, we're confronted with it. We see how many people lose their lives just like that. Isn't that sign enough? I think it is. The amount of people that wake up, that will wake up tomorrow, is plenty. The amount of people that we know personally have died in the last year are plenty. We can't run away from it. Understand that the signs are there. It is obvious in our face. And it's sad, like it's so often, that it's the most important parts of our lives that we celebrate in church. Yeah? And a kid is born, they come to be baptized. And then when they get married, everyone comes to the church. Then when they die, it's not a coincidence. The most critical parts of your life are celebrated in the church. Biggest milestones are celebrated in this church. Be awake, be watchful. But of that day and hour, verse 32. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Take heed, watch and pray, for you do not know when the time is. It is like a man going to a far country, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to each his work commanded the doorkeeper to watch. Watch therefore, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming, in the evening, at midnight, at the crowing of the rooster, nor in the morning. Lest, coming suddenly, he will find you sleeping, and what I say to you, I say to all, watch. As we were saying before, but this whole idea of watchfulness. be alert. When God gives you what? He gives you this authority over this property. He gives you this house. And he says to you, protect it, look after it, and wait for my arrival. Wait for my arrival. And it's like that whole progression. It's like thinking, when is he going to come back? When is he going to come back? And we start to play what? We start to cast lots in our mind. Today, no, it's 6 o'clock, he won't come back today. Generally it happens first thing in the morning. The morning comes, oh, he might be trying to trick us and catch us out. Probably in the afternoon. And we start to conspire and to think. This whole idea of watchfulness, even it's the most important thing that our fathers, church fathers, speak about. Guarding your heart and being watchful. The ascetic fathers will fight. Right? They didn't want to lose not one day of this watchfulness. And the more we stay watchful, the more we stay alert, the more then we wouldn't care about when the Master was coming. Right? Because we didn't destroy what he gave us. So when we have this house and we look after it in the way the Master's asked us to look after it, would we be worried about when he's coming back? No. But we are welcoming him to come. And when the Master comes, it will be a celebration rather than what? A day where we're worried about how our Master's going to react to how we left this house. The more we do what the Master has commanded us, the more we are ready for his return to his house. There's a big difference on people's deathbed, right? For those who have been watchful and given their life to Christ and those who are not. And you can't tell me otherwise. I've seen it happen so many times. And when I was speaking when John always tells us, John St. Nicodemus Funerals will always talk to us about the difference between those who are ready and those who are not. Those who are ready to receive Christ, the nature of their body after reposing is very different to those who weren't. Saying ones that weren't were, it's like they were agonized, they were scared, they were terrified. The ones that were ready for Christ were peaceful. Things just were, there's a presence about them. Those who are watchful welcome death. And those who are not are afraid of it. Those who are watchful are praying with Christ in Gethsemane. And those who are not are sleeping with the disciples, waiting for Christ to be taken. Those who are sleeping are the 5 foolish virgins. And those who are watchful are the 5 wise ones. Those who are sleeping are like Judas, who makes an agreement with the Pharisees, and those who are watchful is like John at the feet of the crucifix, waiting to receive instruction. Those who are watchful are building those spiritual habits within themselves, and not letting no thief or robber come in
to tear their heart apart. And those who are asleep are sleeping in their own comfort while the house is getting tied, while the house is getting robbed and thrown apart, taken apart. This is the difference. Consistently be watchful. Do not let your guard down. It is not age, occupation, or wealth that's going to determine your death, but only God Himself. And when Christ says only the Father knows, He wasn't saying that disproving that He was God, but He was saying that no, this is something that I cannot reveal to you. It's not that I don't have the knowledge of it, but this is something I cannot reveal to you. I can't reveal this to you because your job is not to know when the time is. Your job is to know that you need to be watchful. Don't get the two confused. Because the knowledge of the time is not going to help you to be watchful. In the parable of the five wise and 5 foolish, they were all ready for the wedding, and 5 decided to sleep and be foolish and not have their lamps filled and trimmed, waiting for the what? Waiting for the bridegroom to come. And Mark demonstrates this sharply in his words. The fig tree will bear its fruit, and it will show you when the end of the time is coming. But you will not be able to hide, for the 4 winds of the world will come together and be put in front of Christ. So, in your heart of hearts, remember that it is our job to be that of Christ. That we die daily. The end of the world for us is every single day. We treat this every single day. The remembrance of death is so important for us. Right? And glory be to God forevermore. Amen. Any questions? So, just want to, Jacob, is it off? Okay.